Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Every week we bring you a program, ideally one around the ideas of service to others. Rotary is all about service. Our motto is service above self, and our club has a special interest in focusing on education, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So we hope you will join us each week for the wonderful presentations that we get from people all over the world. This week, we're going to hear a little bit about counting people, about the census in the United States, and about why it is important and how it's a complicated process and things like this. So what we'd like to do is start by welcoming our speaker, Anne Karoly. Anne, it's yours.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited about being here today with all of you. I am a partnership specialist for the census. I live in Santa Clara County. I'm part of the regional office in across the country. The U.S. Census Bureau has different regions, and so I'm assigned to the Los Angeles region. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the census, the decennial census, which we're in 2020, and it's actually the census day is April 1st. So thank you everybody for being here, and I will get going here. So, did it? So what the census does is we count every living person, we count them once, and we count them in the right place. So as we go through and think about the census, is we're going to be looking at it in those terms about counting everybody, counting them only once, and counting them in the right place. The first thing to think about the census is, why do we do it? And so it's in the decennial census is part of our Constitution. It's Article 1, Section 2, and it is stated there that every 10 years there is going to be a census. The first one was in 1790, and as you can imagine, it was a little less complicated in terms of people than it is today, but it's been happening every 10 years since that time. And why do we do it? So it matters for two different reasons. It's about a representation in Congress, and it's also about federal funds that are divided between all the states. So the numbers that are taken, the population count that happens, it decides, by those numbers, it decides how many seats we have in Congress. And then the other thing that it ends up doing is it divides, each state uses those numbers to decide how to redraw districts for the federal government, for state and local entities. And then, as I mentioned, the other is the money. There's about $675 billion that gets divided. So as the redistricting is the first part of it. It helps to decide how those lines get drawn. And I learned recently, which I didn't realize at first, is that it can affect even down to city councils, county superintendents, and school districts use these numbers to decide how they possibly will redistrict after the census. And as you can see here, and I'm not sure if everybody's in California, but California has 53 seats of the 435 seats. And this map is from the 2010 census, so it gives you an idea where there's some gains and losses in terms of the seats. And so those of us, of course, in California, our goal would be to maintain or possibly increase the number of seats that we have. So the $675 billion, that's quite a bit of money. California receives, I've heard numbers from like $90 billion to $100 billion, and this is money per year. So it's $675 billion that, by the population count, this once every 10 years counts, decides how much money and where it's distributed. And so if we don't have an accurate count or we have an under account, it really affects the federal funds that comes to our communities. The other thing that looking at, and people often say, well, why is it important? And you know, we have the two things where our representation and also the funds, but it trickles down so many different ways. The funding that we all receive affect us, from police departments, hospitals, schools, maybe even looking at that data and deciding emergency room needs to be built, a new road needs to be built. And so the data that is collected helps that. It also, businesses use the data because to look economically and decide where in the country it would be a good place to open a business. One of the most important things that we get asked a whole lot is about privacy. And so Title 13 of the U.S. Census, of the U.S. Code, says that all of our information is confidential. And what this means is that the way the data is shown, is worked with, is that it's statistical information that is shared. So nothing identifiable, personal information is shared in the census and the statistics that are given out. And in fact, private information by household is held for 72 years. So the last census, if your math is much better than mine, the last census is 1940, that individual information has been shared, and we're getting ready to share the 1950. I took a oath that I hold for my life that I cannot share any information that I learn or gain about somebody or any businesses. One of the, this time there are three options for households in terms of responding. They're going to be able to respond online, by phone, or by mail. And so somewhere after March 12th, houses will start receiving a letter, and it will have the invitation and how they can respond. And the choice, like I said, online or by phone or by mail. And there will be a series of mailings until, if household hasn't chosen to respond either by online or by phone, then they will receive a printed form. And that is, as I would say, is self-response, because then there's the place that we get to where we have what is called non-response follow-up, and census takers go out into the community. One of the really good things this year is that we'll be supporting much more languages than we have in the past. So the online option will actually, a household could fill it out. There will be 12 other languages besides English that somebody could use. And then there will also be language identification cards that enumerators will have, so that we can support more languages. And this, of course, especially in the Bay Area, is very important for our diversity that we have. And somebody mentioned, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting which person, but we are looking for people to be census takers, and we're starting to hire now for some of those positions. Okay, we're hiring for the positions at this point, and it's an online application, and I will share that in a few minutes. One of the things that happens, and the reason we go out, I've been talking to all kinds of different community groups, is there's a number of populations that are considered hard to count. For example, from this list, I will talk about children under 5. In the last 2010, across the country, they estimated about 1 million children didn't get counted. And that's a huge number. And there can be all kinds of different reasons for that. But anybody born, a child born up to April 1st, 2020, would be counted in the census. So why do we come around and talk? So one of the things is education, but then the other is engagement. And so we need other people. We ask other groups, will you help us? Will you engage your community? Will you share why it's important, how somebody can respond themselves? Can you invite us to come speak? Can you use social media or other means that you have and get the word out for us? And the other thing is to provide recruitment opportunities. We're right now this month doing another big push to increase so that we have more people that have applied for the positions, just because there's a huge ramp up in terms of what we will need this spring. As I mentioned, this is the address. If you have social media, you have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of those, you can share to people about the need and encourage them to apply themselves. As I said, you know, they estimate it will take about 10 minutes to fill out the questionnaire, and it's, if you can think about those 10 minutes are going to impact the next 10 years in our lives as a community. So, and that, just to keep that in mind. Let's see. This is my contact information. So if somebody wanted to reach out to me, if you want to do something, that would be great. You can just send me an email. So thank you. I'm looking forward to some questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that would be Shags. All right, and so let's have you stop sharing your screen there. And what I'd like to do is open it up to anybody with a question. As we're gearing up for that, I'd just like to say, it's really, you know, we had hoped to have some people from other countries joining us as well to tell about their processes. But just a note to all our viewers, those in our club and those visiting, we have our discussion session at the bottom. Please include your comments about the census in your country when you leave a comment for us. So with that, I'll start with the first question. You mentioned that that the data that comes from the census is actually heavily used by businesses as they're choosing places to plant stores, things like that. I hadn't thought about that before. I thought much more about, you know, kind of the public uses of it and government uses. Can you tell us a little bit more about how businesses use census data?
Well, from what I understand, and this is, I'm not as much an expert in that area, but from what I understand is, you know, if you think about a business looking, you know, say they want to build in an area and you want to know, is it economically healthy? Is there going to be enough business for me to go ahead and invest and open up a business? So they can use that data that the Census Bureau has. The other thing is to know that even though the decennial census is the largest survey we do, there's two others that are the American Community Survey and the Housing Survey that happen more frequently. So that they also happen, and there's some other surveys that we also do in terms of gaining that information that is there available. So thank you.
Excellent. All right, and Shags, I see you're unmuted. Please offer up any comments or questions you might have.
Oh, it was very informative. I appreciate that, and I already put my application in for what it's worth for working out of the Concord office.
Excellent.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's a nice combination of work and service, I would say. And how did you get connected to the census originally yourself?
Well, I got connected by LinkedIn. I had moved back to California about a year ago for some family reasons and was looking to jump back into the workforce. And I saw an ad and thought, well, that looks good. And I started as a recruiter. So I was a recruiting assistant. I started last January. So it's just been a great opportunity. And like you mentioned, it's there's that service component that is also there. There's a real sense of helping, assisting the community that I live in. Thanks.
Perfect. Let's pass the mic over to Carl.
Yeah, sorry I'm having a video issue, but you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I split my time between a couple of states, which probably could cause some census issues. But when I was in my other home in Wisconsin, I was approached 2 years ago by a gentleman that said he worked for the Census Bureau on a full-time basis, and that they're like very partial census data that they feed into the computers on an ongoing basis. Do you know anything about that?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the community survey and also the housing survey. So there's two other surveys. I don't know if some of you remember that there's what people will talk about the census having a short form and a long form. And so the last time that was done was at the 2000 census. So some households got a longer form. The current form has 9 questions that will be asked. And so these were divided out. And so one of the surveys actually happens every year and the other one happens every other year. So probably the gentleman, I'm assuming if he worked in the community, he worked on one of those in some capacity. You also have people that work at home, they work at home for it. But those ones have much more data that are driven, and some of them take a lot longer. They drill down to more questions in terms of the community and everything that is there. And if you look at, I think it was just before Christmas, one of the economic surveys came out that the government does regularly. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Hi, Anne. Thank you so much for your presentation. One of my questions is, you had that list of kind of groups that may not necessarily be represented in the census due to a variety of reasons. And besides the children, I'm just really curious, is there a push for census workers to be a part of those communities? I mean, I know that maybe, right, it could also be a trust issue, I'm not really sure, but for example, in immigrant communities, could it be worthwhile to have members who are part of the community as those census workers so that, the community members themselves feel like they feel comfortable? Is there a push to do that, or can you tell me more information about that?
Sure. Thank you very much. So so what they're doing as we're hiring people, we're out there asking people to apply in their communities. And that's very true because hopefully the people get hired that actually live and will work in that area. So again, they know their neighbors, they are trusted. I mean, and one of the other things with a number of immigrant communities also, like I said, trying to support more in different languages. We're spending time out with those groups or people that are leaders in the groups and talking with them. So hopefully answering questions and everything like that. But definitely in terms of working to hire people within where they live and also then are members of the community. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and Andy has a question.
Hi, Anne. Thank you for speaking with us. My question is, do they know why 1 million children were not counted? Because I'm just, my brain is going and I'm thinking that's a lot of vaccines, that's a lot of healthcare, that's a lot of doctor's visits, because it's so important, for us to make sure that kids are well those first few years. So do they know why that happened? And are we trying to prevent it from happening again?
Well, thank you. So from what I understand, if you think about a young family with kids and you can be so busy, you're doing a lot, you may not think sometimes that we count everybody in the household. So if you live in a house and there's people that are related and non-related, everybody gets counted. If somebody's from another country and they happen to be here in the spring, they get counted. And then also that same thing with children. I mean, they could go between two houses, two homes. It could be a parent that just feels overwhelmed, or even the fact, I mean, it's up to April 1st. So, somebody may not be thinking, oh, that's right, having the baby, taking the baby home. Yes, make sure they get onto the questionnaire. So, and we, again, I mean, I have a lot, one of the programs we have is statistics in schools. So it's a whole curriculum for schools, and hoping that they're using it. And through that will happen in March before the actual census date. And so families will see that, and the hope is then kids coming home that it will also remind parents, let's do our census. So those are some of the reasons that are there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Yeah. If the census is a very organized, and it certainly appears to be, operation to count noses, how can we give any credence to a guess that we missed X number of people? I mean, that's a guess. And the census, even though it's probably not perfect, is at least something that's been done efficiently and organized.
Please say your question again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to make sure that I answer correctly.
Yeah, it's just you'd mentioned there was some belief that 1 million children weren't counted, right?
Yes.
Okay. If the census, which is an organized way of counting noses, comes up with one number, isn't it just speculation that we missed 1 million people?
Oh, I think I understand what you're saying. So it's, yes. I mean, in some ways, you could say that is the estimate that from what they have gathered on the decennial, that it looks like that was undercounted. And so they can also, we can see where there's areas where we call low response areas, so that they know by actual population what it is versus what was counted. And one of the things to remember is it's the count that is done in the decennial that's going to count for both the fundings that I talked about and also representation. So it has to happen in that place. And it is a massive undertaking. I was talking to somebody, and as a reminder, it's the largest workforce that we put into place as a country outside that we've ever done, other than going to war. So if you think about how large we bring in this group of people to do this massive undertaking. So thank you.
So one of the things that I think a lot of people in Rotary clubs might be attuned to is the idea that if the club has elderly members, and a lot of traditional clubs do, that they aren't going to be visited by people who claim to be part of the census but are not, right? Have you been given information about how they're working to keep bad actors from using the census as a way to try to get to people?
Yes, and so if you go to our website, there is a number of different things that are there, sharing, responding to people. I've gone out to quite a few. One of the areas that I work with is seniors, is one of the areas I have some experience in that area. So I've gone to a lot of senior centers and talked to people, and some of it is to remind that, we're not going to ask for your social security number. We don't want your credit card number, and we don't want you to give us any money. And so those kinds of things to remind people. And, you know, we have so many different scams other places, so that it's just to keep saying that. And if you know people that are older in your community or within your sphere, is also to just keep that in mind as they're doing the census. There's also information, I don't have it around my neck, but I have a badge. So if somebody, a census taker, is going to be going out, they'll have a badge that, a pad, or I'm not quite sure if it's a pad or a laptop this time around when they're taking the information. But if somebody's uncomfortable, the whole point is, if you're uncomfortable, then your safety is always the most important. So thank you.
Excellent. So we've kind of run through our time, but for everyone who is taking part in the recording, after we finish the recording, you're certainly welcome to ask more questions. I'd like to say thank you to all of our members who are on the recording call now in California. Please wave when I say your name. Sandy, all right, yay, Farheen, Shags, and Carl, who would wave if his video were on, but good person nonetheless. And representing the great state of Texas, Rory, thank you very much for being part of it today. Please say hello to Jasmine for us. To all of our members and guests, we thank you for taking part in what we do to try to share stories that are important to our communities near and far. And we hope you will join us every week. Make sure you do two things before you finish up on our site. And one is to let us know you were here. There's an attendance bit below. We ask that you fill that out. Visiting Rotarians, if you put in your email address properly, you'll be sent a note you can share with your secretary to make up a missed meeting with your club. And then there is our discuss section at the bottom. That is our place to really to talk about what we're seeing in these programs and across our meetings. And we hope you will leave comments or respond to things that other people have left. As we like to do every week, we leave the final word to our guest. And so, Anne, please share wisdom and finish us off.
Thank you. So just a reminder that we all count, and it's important that we are counted. And just my ask is, if you would like to be a partner, my email I had shared, send me an email. It's very easy. It's even if you video share something, your business in some fashion, just helps to get the word out. Every step that anybody is helpful. And thanks for the time, and I look forward to seeing everybody counted as of April 1st. Thank you.
Excellent. Everyone, we'll see you next week.